Good afternoon, and welcome to the North Carolina Museum of Art's new series where we ask, what is museum work? And we are helped along in finding the answer to that question by various museum professionals who will join us and give us a behind the scenes look at museum work, their professional experience, and what it takes to make the North Carolina Museum of Art function. So today we are thankful to be joined by Kathryn Briggs, exhibition designer, and I will let her take it away. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kathryn. I am one of two exhibition designers on staff at the Art Museum. And what I usually like doing back when we could do these things in person was to say, hey, come on, guys, let's go walk through the gallery and just talk about what we have going on. And over Zoom, it's just a little bit different. But if I start my screen sharing business here, then there we go. You should see what we call a SketchUp model. SketchUp is a super cool and fun thing to do. It does three-dimensional models, so we're able to actually walk through the space virtually here. And we'll just kind of start with an overview of the space. This is all of B level in the East Building, if you're familiar with our campus at all. Down here is where you come in through the front door, and you would come down these stairs and enter into B level. Over here on the left side of the screen, this would be Gallery 1, and that is where most of our larger exhibitions happen. Right now in there is Leonardo Drew and Good as Gold, both really cool exhibits. If you haven't seen them, try to get over and have a look. I've absolutely fallen in love with Leo Drew's work. It's so cool. And if you come out these doors and walk around this way, you hope you're following my hand along. This is the atrium space, and in this space here is Gallery 2, which is also a traveling exhibition space. And what's in there right now through New Year's, just after New Year's, is called Front Burner, and it's a group show of North Carolina artists. Also very cool if you can get by to see it. And it, yeah, it'll be open through the end of the holidays. And if you follow my hand icon right along this way and come into the back of B level, you come to Gallery 3 and Gallery 4, and this sort of weird space in between the two. This is where we're going to focus on today. It's where we have the Christopher Holt exhibition. It's about, Christopher Holt is a fresco painter. He lives in Asheville, North Carolina. And he is just really good at it. And it was, let's zoom in a little bit here. As you can see, it's kind of a weird space in that it's not just a big room. So that's kind of where the design part of what I do comes into play, because it's like, how can you make this weird broken up space sort of work as one exhibition? And honestly, with Christopher Holt and the artworks that he was bringing to us, it almost laid itself out. It made such great sense to have two spaces. As a fresco painter, if you're familiar at all with frescoes, they're sort of part of the building when they're done. It's not like hanging a canvas on a wall somewhere. It's painted not on the wall, but actually into the wall wet plaster is sort of smeared on the surface of the wall, and that way it's the pigment is worked into that. So when the curator came to me and said we're going to do a fresco show, I wasn't exactly sure how that was going to work, because I didn't really imagine, like, you know, bringing a wall of a building into our building, and how exactly was that going to work. And when we talked about it some more, it started to make more sense. And actually, let's start there, because every exhibition starts with a checklist. It's just a crucial piece of information when we start looking at creating exhibitions. The curator will select artworks that they really want to have included in a show, and the curators that become our favorite fill out all these other columns with the information that we need to put this thing into a real space. Not the least of which is the actual object dimension, and we'll get into that a little further on. But you can see here that this number one right here is called Cartoon 1 of 5, and these are the actual preliminary drawings that the artist uses to see it. It's done the actual scale of the fresco itself, and they tape it up on the wall, and they poke a bunch of holes in it, and then they pat sort of charcoal dust into those holes, and then they can pull this down, and then they have the outline of what's going on. And that's kind of how frescoes get built, if you will, in a two-dimensional kind of way. So we had the actual cartoons, and then we had studies of all the people that were going to represent all of the people that were in the fresco. And what's really cool about this is that these are the actual congregants of the church. This whole fresco is done at the Haywood Street Church in Asheville. And the church's mission is to help with housing challenged individuals in that community. And these are the actual congregants of the church. And also this right here is Pastor Brian, and he's running the church there. And what's really cool is that Christopher would go to a service and would just start sketching people, and then he would have them to his studio so he could do further studies. And you'll see as we move along here how that really developed into something incredible. But the checklist is super important, for sure. And we go back to the SketchUp model here. The cartoons that we were looking at are here in Gallery 3, and they really hold that room. It's not a great big room, but these are so big that they really just sort of engulf you when you walk in, and it's so very cool. And then here in Gallery 4 is where we have the charcoal studies of all the congregants. And there again, that was just luck that it turned out that way. And in this kind of weird in-between space that I was mentioning, we did some large vinyl reproductions of, this is the actual reproduction of well, it couldn't be actual if it's a reproduction. Okay, it is an actual reproduction of the completed fresco that if you happen to be in Asheville, go ahead and stop by because they love showing it off. And then some other large scale images of Christopher and the team that were working on the fresco, which took like years to complete. So let's just kind of walk through the gallery a little bit. And as we come down to floor level, this is basically the entrance. And here on this TV is, it's a documentary that Public TV was shooting, and it's snippets from that, and it's interviews with Christopher and other members of the fresco team. And it's a really nice kind of way to introduce what's going on in the gallery, because it's really layered. It's part of design and coming up with shows to present to people is having a story to tell. And the artwork is, it seems like in an art museum, the artwork should be the story, and it is, but the story that the artwork tells is also another layer in the story, which kind of makes the job really interesting. And so as you come on in to the space, here on the left, there's always a title wall somewhere, and hopefully you have room to have that really close to where you want to start, where you want your visitors to start and kind of get oriented to, you know, what is it that I'm about to see and what is this about, and sort of prepare them for that experience. It's usually a really good idea to have a snappy graphic to kind of pitch it really well. And what we've got here is a reproduction, you know, big vinyl image of, this is Christopher standing here in the midst of scaffolding and a table full of paints and trowels and colors and all his tools, and he's basically standing there trying to figure out what to do with this next portion, because they had scaffolds set up in the church for, like I said, for years working on this thing. And it wouldn't be a really good entry if there wasn't a text panel that spoke about, you know, not only what's the story we're trying to tell, but who was involved in it. How did it happen? When did it happen? Where did it happen? And quite often, who was generous enough to fund this project for us, because we couldn't do it without our funders, just tremendous donors and people who keep us going. So there's as you're walking in, you know, you're coming in, and hopefully you will go into this room next, which is sort of the intent of the design. As we come around the corner here, there's the TV that I was talking about. And something really important in exhibition design, even when you're at the conceptual phase, you're not even into final drawings and this is what we're really going to do. I have never met a curator or anyone else actually that didn't want to say something about each work of art. And so when you're getting started, go ahead and put a placeholder in for labels, because a lot of times curators and, well, educators and anyone who comes with an idea always has more art than will actually physically fit in the room. And that can be one of the biggest challenges for sure. So do yourself a favor, if you're designing something, just go ahead and put placeholders in for all of your graphics. This is a really cool color study of what was going on. This is sort of a black and white study of, you know, will it all fit sort of a thing. And then we get into the larger cartoons, and you can see these are, these are the larger cartoons. And like I said, it took 5 of these to cover the space that was needed at the church. And these are done on very heavy paper, and charcoal is used, and they're just they're so thick and rich. And please go see it in person. You know, really, it's just it's almost tactile. You can feel it with your eyes almost. Um, and part of telling that story is interpretive elements. And on this particular wall, we've got the cartoon, we've got the tracing paper, which is actually then laid onto the wall. And then this is a reproduction that we did that shows, you see, you've got the angel here, and then this is the traced image of the angel there, and then here's the angel. So you're actually seeing the different layers of the work that go into how you get this thing out of your mind and painted into the plaster of a wall. It's such a cool process. You know, and this is you always want to have sort of, you know, room for some more text to explain what's going on in a particular area. You know, you can go from explaining an entire exhibition, and then you can break it down into different sort of manageable bite-sized portions for visitors. And these are two of our most frequent visitors. This is Bob and his daughter, and they pose in all of my SketchUp models. Um, they're tireless in what they give to the museum. You can see over here is sort of an iPad that started out as an interpretive element that we were going to put there. And the way that the flow of developing an exhibition goes, actually, I have a good graphic for that. There it is. This is a graphic representation of the exhibition design process, and this is a pretty easy one. Everybody wants to start here and do an exhibition, and then there's a lot of meetings, and a lot of people have a lot of good ideas, and then we figure out how to make that happen, and we're running along, and then it's like, no, let's change that and come back this way. So you can see it's sort of a convoluted process, but everybody wants to end up here at the same time in the same space. And, you know, we usually do. It can be difficult, and it certainly makes for an interesting day. But this iPad, if you actually get a chance to see this exhibition, isn't there. This was one of many ideas that got tossed around earlier on. And it was like, how can we deliver this content? And it seemed at first that the iPad would be the best way to do it. But as we continue moving through the space, you'll see that we found a better solution. So this is just kind of one example of how things develop and morph over the run of, excuse the wall, how things go. Another thing about SketchUp models, when they're not really needed if you're just doing, you know, a painting show where everything just hangs on the wall. You can usually just get away with a Vectorworks plan. Let me show you one of those. This is another product we use. It's called Vectorworks, and as the name implies, it's a vector-based kind of drafting program, and it's sort of the industry standard. It's super precise, kind of expensive, but it's really good at what we do. And you can kind of see here in this art plan that we've got everything laid out. And then there's some things that sit in the floor here, but then there's, you know, all the things are laid out. And when you get an art plan together, you can then throw it into elevation. And that's when you get to stand in front of a wall and see what it is you've done. You know, there again, there's Bob for scale helping us out every time. And, you know, if it if it's going to be in a room, it needs to go into the drawings. So, I mean, down to, you know, here's the TV with headphones and stools to sit on, you know. Um, Unfortunately, you can't put on headphones these days, but we have captioned that, so you're not going to miss out on any of the content there. Here's an elevation of the room with the cartoons in them. And it's super important not just to use drawings as a develop an idea tool, but also to document, because people can get really excited and forget what they talked about. So it's really good to document things, and that way it's super clear what was going on. This is a case that we had to build to hold the sample fresco, and another part of the documentation and actual representation of the drawings we do is that the guys in the shop had to build this thing, and you have to tell them what it's going to do, how big it needs to be, what color. So it's all very specific, you know, what you need to be careful what you ask for, because you'll probably get it, you know. So this is a drawing that I gave to the guys in the shop, and they went to work and ended up with a box that looks just like that, because they're good at it that way. So, and here's that box here in the SketchUp model, and we needed another case here that this case here actually holds a collection of Christopher and his team's tools, paintbrushes and trowels and things that they mix paint with, and just all kinds of cool things. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. This is Chris came to the museum, and he brought these and wanted to lay out what was going to go on in that case. And you know, we obviously were in a workroom in the back of the house here, and probably need straightening up a little bit. But I laid out a piece of Centra, which is just, you know, some material we have laying around, and it kind of represented the space that we had inside a case that we were going to put these in. And so he kind of talked us through, you know, this is for this and this is for that. And just look at these beautiful brushes, man. He gets these from Italy. They're very specific to fresco painting, which is very cool. This marvelous glass thing is how they actually grind the pigment, and that's solid glass, and when you pick it up, it probably weighs like 5 pounds. It's just the most if you geek out on tools at all, this will do it for you. So this was his arrangement for the tools that were most important to him. Obviously charcoal, and he included a couple of sketchbooks, which are just so fascinating, watching people doodle and what it is they're thinking about. And like I said, they're always there. Whatever you're doing, leave a placeholder for a label. And so this was a used label that was laying around, and I just threw it in there so that we would not put something in that place and would have room for a label. And okay, so all of that is right here in this case. Let's keep walking a little bit here. Another cool thing that SketchUp does for you is it lets you walk through the room before you've installed everything. So you can, if you take a breath and pay attention, you really get to sort of maximize kind of fortunate accidents in sightlines and what you see when you're standing in one particular place. Now this is one of the congregants, and this is an actual sample of the fresco. And if you look right here at this guy's face and you look back here, it's the same guy, isn't it? That was so cool when I realized that that was working out that way. His name is Damon. And when I saw that this was how the layout was kind of working out, I immediately told the curator, who loves to move art around in a room, it's like, you can't move that. It's like, this sight line is way too good to waste. And another cool thing about sight lines, this is the case that has the tools in them. And over here, this and this image are images of, this is Chris, and that's a person from his team using all the tools that are in this case. So if you're standing here looking at this case and you glance up, then you'll really get a connection of what's going on. And it's just so cool when you build it and you see it, and you realize there's these great connections that you didn't even see earlier on in the process. And we'll walk on through a little bit more. And these well, okay, so SketchUp is only as good as the images that you import into the program. You'll notice the brick wall and the doors here look really, really clear compared to this wall where the art is. That's a product of that. And as we move around the room, we just, see very regular spacing. Always put your labels in because you'll end up with them for sure. Here we go with more of the congregants moving through. And here again, it's really nice to be able to walk through an exhibition before you've actually painted the walls, hung the art up, have to move the art, repaint the walls. This program is such a valuable tool. And there you can see just sort of an overview of what was going on. And between SketchUp and Vectorworks, it's really hard to not know what you're going to end up with. And what we usually do is we aim for, a long time ago, exhibition designers sort of borrowed a process from architects as sort of a industry standard. And you can have, several phases of exhibition development. But what we try to do is go with conceptual, which is the first telling of what the curator is trying to express in the exhibition. Preliminary would be you refine it a little bit more. Then, of course, you would go to final. Now, if you'll notice at the lower left here, this says final 3. There can be a lot of fluctuation between what one group of stakeholders calls final and what the other does. And so it's, you shoot for a 3-phase process, and it's a really good day if you come out with a 4 or 5-phase process. Certainly it's not like the old days when there was pencils and those plastic triangle things that our parents used. That was certainly different because it took forever to update and revise plans depending on who was talking about what that day. But with the Vectorworks and the SketchUp, the revisions are so fast that you can just, you can just grab an image and just move it, anywhere, and you can put it back, and it's just very cool. And actually, it's been very interesting in the time of Zoom meetings here to just have a Zoom meeting with the curator and pull up the Vectorworks drawing and work live in the drawing with them instead of, going to a table and red pen and then have to take notes and go back around, and just to work more collaboratively, in a live setting like that. It's really kind of helpful. I hope it's something we can continue in the future. And okay, here's what makes this show really neat, because part of what was going on was telling the story of this church and the congregants. And we had the opportunity to have them come to the museum and sort of see what had become of all the studies that Christopher had done. And so they loaded them up on a couple of buses and drove them down here to Raleigh, and several of them had never left Asheville before. So it was really kind of a powerful day for them, and also for us. This is Christopher Holt here in the center, and this is Pastor Brian here, and this is the reproduction of the fresco that we had done. And if you kind of look around, you'll see that, okay, here's this person here. Oh, there she is right there. And, it's like, it was so, here's this guy, and, there he is right there. And it was so great to actually meet them, because when I had spent time with the artworks and actually the sketches of the congregants, is like Christopher not only had captured their likeness, but he had captured their character. And so when I saw Jeanette here, I knew that she was just going to be sassy and funny. When I met her, she was sassy and funny. It was really incredible, and just a really cool day to be working at the art museum, to have that going on. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. So let's see, let's go back to through that wall. These are the congregants, and y'all have really got to come see the show in person. Go to ncartmuseum.org, click on free ticket, and that will give you a time to come so that we can all practice social distancing and stay healthy, but you can still see art in person. Very cool thing to do. Jump back out here. A lot of times in an open space like this, you think that you're just designing one exhibition, when in fact the Sightlines here was a very good thing. But in a very open space, Sightlines can be a very challenging thing, because as you come down the stairs, and let me back out a little bit here, as you come down the stairs, you can see all the way through to here, and you can see your title wall here. But to get from where you are to here, you're going to pass by some other very interesting things, and you're going to want to stop and look. And so in an open space like this, you have to not only be excited for Sightlines, but you have to be very wary of them, because as you come down the stairs, the question might become, where's gallery 2, because obviously you're facing this way. So oftentimes we will put the title wall out here on this wall to the atrium, and really hope that when you come down off the steps, you'll glance around to orient yourself. This is photography 1 and 2, and main hall where we usually have videos going on. And once you walk in and see a video, you're gone. You're going to look at that video. So you have to kind of try to get into the head of the visitor a little bit to not only get them to the exhibition that they wanted to come see, but also get them or let them enjoy some stuff on their way. So part of it is, if we're in gallery 1 over here, usually we have a title wall going on here. So you can become easily overwhelmed visually with all of the title walls that are going on. So it's very important, again, to remember sightlines, because if you're standing here, you're going to see this wall, but you're maybe not going to see this one. So in terms of design, do you want to lead with the strong art, or do you want to just sort of tempt people to, hey, what's going on in there, and get them into the gallery and have them see the stronger thing when they actually are in there? So there's a lot of things to consider. And there again, a good drawing will help you think about so many things. If you sit down and look at a checklist, sometimes your mind can just go, what in the world am I supposed to do with all of this? You know, I mean, just here's the checklist again. Just imagine reading this list, and kind of like a shopping list, and how in the world do you make sense of this for somebody who hasn't studied it yet, who hasn't seen it yet? You know, on first glance, it seems very disjointed, and you know, it certainly needs some interpretation, you know, some words of help and assistance to let that go. And let's see, where's my drawing now? There. So we've basically done that with this space back here with Christopher Holt, but we're also doing it here and here and over here. And the visitors all come in right here, and you really want them to see it all. So you kind of have to help with the pacing of how the information gets thrown at the visitor, and it's really very cool. Sometimes I will, our offices are kind of back here this way, and sometimes I'll come out and just sort of stand here and watch people come in, and that honestly can be the most valuable time that you will have as a designer, to just go out into the space and see how people react to it. And it's just so telling. Sometimes some people will get down here and they know exactly where they're going. They're going to come around here and go to the gallery 1 show because that's the ticket they bought and that's where they want to go. Other people will come down here and go, where's my gallery? And thankfully we have people on duty out there who will help people get oriented if they just can't. The other people are they're just killing time. They're just wandering around. I think they're probably my favorite. You know, they know there's a couple things they want to see, but they're just like, I got some time. I'm going to wander around and look at all this stuff. And a lot of what we do at the museum is to try and, if not visually, but sort of content-wise, link things together a little bit. Try to work a theme, which is always kind of good. And then other times just make it completely different. You know, from one extreme to the other is oftentimes the best way to go. because at that point you've really made a statement that will be noticed by a lot of people. And that can be one of the strongest things you can do. Is just, don't be wishy-washy. That's the worst. I think that kind of covers it. If anybody has any questions or comments or anything like that, Angela, has anything popped up?
Well, I think I would just like you to go over a little bit about your history as an exhibition designer, just so students know if they want to become an exhibition designer, what's the best way for them to get there? Best course of study, maybe.
Yes. If you want to be an exhibition designer, you can actually go to school for that. I did not. I came about it in a piecemeal kind of, well, didn't I get lucky with that break kind of thing, which is also, a viable option. There are many entry points to exhibition design. I went to East Carolina and I got a BFA in sculpture, which is a three-dimensional art form, and I've always kind of been interested in 3 dimensions in general. So it's it's the kind of thing that you can, I would strongly recommend learning how to use all the software that's available while you're in school, because learning it on the job is, the learning curve can be steep, but a lot of the stuff is, it's out there and it's very similar to there's a free SketchUp version. So if you wanted to, just Google up SketchUp and get your free version, you can, redo your room in 3D. You can import your artwork and hang it on your walls and not get in trouble for putting the nail in the wrong place, which is bad. Even at a professional level, it's the worst, it's really fun to play with. It's good to, there's exhibition designers in art museums and history museums and natural science museums, and there's actually one at the zoo, if you can believe that. But yeah, those are basically exhibitions with live animals, but those are designed. There's companies that do nothing but crank out trade shows. Those are technically exhibitions, the same exact stuff, and you'll probably make better money than an art museum. Just saying, though it is our privilege to serve, and I wouldn't change it for anything because I really love the art, but if your slant is more historical or, biology or science or things like that, there's certainly career opportunities for exhibition designers. Like I said, it sort of incorporates a lot of different disciplines. You've got, for me, art history, fine arts, a little bit of architecture in there so that, you can understand the space that you're dealing with. Certainly a little bit of graphic design is thrown in there. Fortunately, at the art museum, we have a graphic designer on site who's like super good, and he can almost finish my sentence, when we're working together on a project. So it becomes very, very easy to work that way.
Great. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Final words of advice for students hoping to come into museum work?
It seems like there are many people in museums that were fully intended to get there since they were 3 years old. And then there's other people who got there because, like myself, it's just like, that sounds interesting. Maybe I will try that. And, 20 some odd years later, I'm still doing exhibit work, so it's be open to the, that might be interesting. I'll try that.
Great. Thank you so much, Kathryn. Thank you for your time today. And
Alrighty.
thank you for everyone who tuned in and is going to watch this video on YouTube. And join us again next week for the next one in our series where we will meet Rachel Woods, who is our park horticulturalist. It's a hard word.
Ooh,
Horticulturalist.
nice.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
All right, thank you.